very early morning stream because I made some bread dough last night. As you can see, it's very, very ready to go. It might be overproofed actually, so I'm gonna heat up my oven and we're gonna bake some bread. And probably not gonna do much else. This is kind of like a good second part to the last live where I started baking the bread but never showed you the end product. And now you get to see the end product, hopefully. Okay, I'm gonna pump my oven up to 450, and then I'm gonna put a little oven-proof dish in there with some water so we can create a little steam environment, because I'm not going to put this bread dough into a Dutch oven, so we're not going to be able to kind of help it steam inside the Dutch oven. So we're just going to add a little water to the bottom of the oven. And some people actually just throw water straight onto their oven floor. I've been told that that can potentially damage your oven, so I'm not going to risk it with this little residential oven. But you know, any oven-proof dish will do. Just fill it up with some water and you're good to go. I go like an inch. I don't know. I don't know how much you're supposed to do. While we wait for the oven to come up to temp, let's hope that this bread does not proof much more, because it is starting to sag down the sides. So unfortunately I timed this very poorly. I mixed the dough last night. I think I started the dough around 6 p.m. and then I didn't use any sourdough, I just used instant yeast. I stretched and folded it maybe 6 times. And then I was thinking about baking it at 9 something last night, and then I was like, no, not gonna do that now. So, ooh, there's a tiny little sweater fiber. I don't think it's fret fur. Pay no attention to the mini furs. So I was thinking we'd bake it this morning, so what I did was I tucked the dough up into a little neat loaf, plopped it into this baking dish, which I slathered with a thin layer of bacon fat, so that instead of using butter or oil, we're just going to use up some bacon fat that we had. And then I covered it in a big salad tub so that it didn't dry out too much. Although you can see where there's some fissures and cracks, that's where the dough dried out a little bit because it wasn't a perfect seal, which I think will be fine. And then I woke up at like 9 this morning. I pulled it out of the fridge. I sprayed it all over with some water, and then I put some cracked black peppercorn on top with some smoked salt and some Hawaiian red salt. I don't know, they were gifts, so I was just like, ooh, pretty salts. Let's put it on. So salt and pepper top. The dough itself has a little bit of rye flour, a lot of bread flour, some ground turmeric. I think I put some fenugreek seeds in there as well. And maybe a little bit of flaxseed, I can't remember anymore. But other than that, I think I put a little bit of very expired barley malt syrup. This one expired. This I took from the test kitchen because I was like, nobody's ever going to use this now that it is best before 2017. So, there's that. There's the really, really expired mistake yeast in that little glass jar in the mason jar in my fridge. And that's it. So, in the meantime, I'm going to hand wash my mom's sweater. It's not going to be a very exciting live. It's mostly just for me to do my weekly pop-in to show y'all that I'm still alive, to see how everyone else is doing. Happy Saturday, welcome to the weekend. If you've got work, I guess it's not the weekend, but in either case, I hope you're doing well. It is super, super chilly in New York this weekend. Erin is very excited for the Bills game tonight. That's happening at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time in a cold, cold condition of apparently 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So I don't know what that is in Celsius, but it is well below freezing. Yeah, it's gonna probably be a very painful game for the players. Yes, that is the grass jelly pan for those of you who are OG viewers of the live streams. Stuff down here. I also could have sworn I had laundry gloves, but I guess I don't. I don't think we're like a chicken wing eating a game day crowd. I think Erin just watches the games. I feel like when we first met, Erin wasn't very into football, but maybe because that was because the Bills were on a losing streak, but they seem to be doing far better the last... What? They got Josh Allen, is what Erin's saying. Josh Allen, the savior of the Bills. The Buffalo Bills. The road to redemption with Josh Allen. You're welcome, NBC. Reach out to me if you need a sports commentator who doesn't know sports. Yeah, the pan is still alive and kicking. It's never died. It's just scarred forever, unfortunately. So. Okay, remind me where you are. Are you somewhere in Canada? Or are you in Russia? Because that sounds horrendous. When you are in the double-digit negatives, I just feel like that's a sign no humans should live in such areas. I don't understand football either. My mom apparently used to love rugby. She never really enjoyed American football. I think the bulky protection gear was one of the aspects that turned her off. My mom was a very aesthetic person. She paid a lot of attention to aesthetics. And so American football really just looks kind of dumb. Whereas in rugby, you're just like, hell yeah, let me crash my body into your body and see who survives. And also ball. But it's also like a much more gentler sport, whereas American football, I think, ironically, looks really violent because they have all the protection gear. They no longer know how to maybe tune into their bodies and be like, I maybe should not angle my force in such a way in such an intense degree. But hey, I've never seen rugby or football, so I don't know what I'm talking about. I have not seen rugby players, but I for sure know that my mom had taste. Unfortunately, that taste did not transition over to her choice of my dad, but you know, we all make mistakes in life, huh? Congratulations on your cast iron early birthday present. For those of you who have played rugby in life, have you sustained permanent injuries from being a rugby athlete? Because I feel like in college, I would watch the rugby team scrimmage, and like without fail, every week some new girl had a new cast or like a new concussion or a new something or other. Hello, Suzuku. Nice to see y'all. Hope you're doing well. I feel like I would be very successful if there were a channel that showed sports, hosted, commentated, and viewed only by people who didn't understand that sport. I feel like I would be very, very successful in that venture. You know? Hi, South Florida. Oh, God. It's a shame because I feel like American football moves too slow for that kind of commentary to be fun enough because there's so much break time in between the action. But maybe that's part of the fun too. Is like, oh, okay, I guess we're not playing again. Time to get your popcorn, look at your spice cabinet, figure out what goes on this popcorn, because apparently football means 90% vacation, 10% injury. Challah bread, which I'm assuming you mean that Jewish bread that is basically like a braided brioche, is not the easiest bread to make. Any enriched dough, which challah is because it has eggs and butter in it, I believe it has eggs and butter in it. Maybe not butter if it's kosher, actually. But anyway, enriched doughs are not the easiest doughs to make because you have to make sure you're combining all the fats in properly. I feel like the easiest bread to make is just like white sandwich bread with instant yeast. I feel like sourdough, once you have the proportions and you have a good starter going, is actually not that hard. It's just very time intensive. Okay, oven is up to temp. This dough very wobs, and I'm just going to put it in now, I guess. There we go. And I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes. Then we're going to decrease the temperature a little bit so that it doesn't burn. Oh man, I used to live on Kings Highway in that area of Brooklyn, and I really miss it. It's just very inconvenient to commute from that area, but the groceries are comparable to the prices in my current area. Do you need me to turn the camera away?
No.
Okay. And it was very residential, very peaceful, very convenient because I was between two subway lines. I was between the F line on Kings Highway and the N, I think the N line. But yeah, it was just a tad too far to get to Manhattan. And also to my mom at the time, who was in Queens, like very far in Queens near Long Island. So, Ellen, I don't have a recipe for this particular bread, but here, let me show you guys. I just published a new rye bread recipe, and I basically followed that weight proportion for the flours and the water, but I didn't follow anything else, and I just kind of eyeballed it. So in that bread that just went in, there's a lot of bread flour to about 10% rye flour, which is what I had left over from testing the rye bread recipe. Then I put in some fenugreek seeds and some turmeric. There's salt, there's sugar, there's barley malt syrup in there, and then on top was sprinkled with salt and pepper. I don't know, you tell me, do I like smelly fermented tofu? I go through these periods of crazes with condiments, so I think that 1 week where I ate half that jar of fermented tofu, my blood pressure shot up like 4 times the original rate. It is very salty. That is a condiment. If you're talking about cho tofu, which is just smelly tofu, it's often fried on the outside. I remember, I think when my dad came to visit one time in New York City, we went to, was it with my dad or my mom? I think it was with my dad. I'm not sure though. We ordered, maybe it was with my mom. God, memory. Anyway, Aaron, me, and someone else went to a restaurant in Flushing. Aaron was like, I have to order the cho tofu, which means smelly tofu. And I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yes, I've always wanted to try it. And the dish comes, and before the waiter even sets it down on the table, Aaron was like, what's that smell? And I was like, dude, it is the thing that you ordered, that you insisted that you wanted, that I asked, are you sure you want? And you said yes. And so he proceeds to cautiously take a bite, and he's like, can't do this, can't finish it. So I ended up eating the entire order. I'm not a huge fan of cho tofu. Maybe I've never had good cho tofu, but for the most part, it just doesn't get me excited. I don't know, but that fermented bean curd that I have in the fridge is quite delicious as a condiment. It's got a little bit of, you know how sometimes you have feta cheese that you've kept in the fridge for a week too long, and it starts developing that kind of like slimy off taste that is bordering on bitter, and it's like 2 days just before you know it's going to be no longer good enough to eat. It's got that kind of flavor profile, and then it's got the silky creaminess of really soft triple cream brie, and it's extremely salty the way that fish sauce is, the way that Vegemite, Marmite might be. So that just gives you an idea of what that tastes like. I find it comparable to call it like Chinese Marmite, but you definitely don't want to overdose on that. It's very strong. Are the tofu cubes gluten-free? I'm not sure. I think they are, but water, soybean, wine, salt, chili. So they should be. What do you put it on? You can put it on toast, like people do Marmite and Vegemite. I put it on congee, rice. I mix it into stir fries for a little bit of base fermented flavor. It's totally up to you. Peep on my bread. Oh my god, it's so tall. Holy schmoly. Let me see if you can see this through the door, because I don't want to open it. Can you see anything? I'm not sure if you can. I'm trying to see on my computer screen what you guys are seeing, but I'm not I'm not sure you're seeing anything. Just trust me, it's grown like 2 inches above the lip. Two whole inches above the lip. The black chair is still here. It's not that little, but it's little in comparison to the wood chair. Now I have 3 chairs in a row. They're kind of like their own chair family. At the beginning of the pandemic, when I was starting to shoot at home, Chelsea was video conferencing me to figure out how to clear out my kitchen space to make it more feasible for shooting in and more clutter-free. So I had removed that black stand that is now holding like flow over ingredients, especially all of Mom's ingredients that I collected from her house. But now it's back. So my house is slowly returning to a original normal, but our world has not. But maybe our world has. How do you guys feel? I feel like everyone around me is getting the Omicron variant, so that's the new normal.
I gotta come see this tall bread.
Okay, come peep. Don't open it. Can you see?
Yeah, that's big.
That's tall, right?
That's a big bread.
It's a big bread. So you're gonna have to wait like 20 more minutes for it to come out, and then you're gonna have to wait like 20 more minutes to eat it.
No problem.
Okay. I should sell tickets to watch Budget Eats live. That's a fantastic idea. Let me show you what I made last night, and I just left on the counter because I guess I don't think this will lead to food poisoning, but this is toasted barley tea. I keep calling it buckwheat tea, but it's toasted barley. I think I've made this tea before on a live, but it's basically just like really dark roasted barley from H Mart. Put it in some boiling water, let it cook.
Can I get some of that?
Yes. Do you want me to heat it up or you want it cold?
I'll do it heated, please.
Okay. I will take out my portion that I would like cold first, and then I will heat it up.
Good.
smell the bread. Maybe I should turn down the temperature. It smells like it's burning. Let's bake it at a lower temperature. Let's go down to 425.
Thank you.
It's got a mildly sweet flavor, very toasty. If you've ever had Japanese hojicha, which is one of, I think, Aaron and my favorite teas,
It is my overall favorite.
it tastes a little bit like hojicha, but it doesn't have that.
Maybe tied with Earl Grey.
Ooh.
We both have the same taste in tea.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't have that bitter edge, that crisp bitter edge, the tannicness of hojicha, which, you know, hojicha is just basically roasted green tea. But this isn't actually tea, it's toasted barley. So it's got a sweet graininess to it, but it's still got that toasty bitterness to it because the grains are literally burnt. Really? Gluten intolerance extends to barley tea too, huh? That sucks. Never thought about that before. What is muji-cha? Or mugi-cha? Muji-cha. I don't know what that is. Have you ever made that flower blossom tea? Like the one where you buy a single flower and it blooms in the glass? I often feel like that is more for presentation and aesthetics than it is for drinking, so no, I've never spent money on that. I didn't actually make the bread, Holly. I made the bread last night. I'm just baking the bread, so you'll get to see it when it comes out of the oven. Oh, no, this doesn't empty out my stomach. Yikes. I've definitely drunk like 8 cups of this in one day before, and it has had no effect on my digestive system, but you also know that my stomach seems to be made out of titanium. I think my kryptonite is ripe pears. Ripe pears will do me in. Ripe pears will destroy me if I eat more than one. If I eat 2 ripe pears, it's game over. I can't leave the house. Aaron definitely wants the Bills in the Super Bowl. I think that's his one requirement. I don't know about what he wants the other team to be.
Lost.
What?
I want the other teams to lose.
He wants the other teams to lose, is what he said. Have you ever made faux gluten meat using flour before? No, but 面筋, which literally means wheat elastic, aka gluten, is a very classic ingredient in Chinese cooking. So I've eaten it many times. My mom's also bought it from the supermarket before. I know it's very popular because it's like all over TikTok and whatnot, but it is not a new thing. It's been in Asian cultures forever. Asian monks eat it all the time as a mock meat because they are vegetarians. So I have no desire to make gluten from scratch. It seems very labor intensive, and also I'm allergic to gluten. It will make my hands come up in rashes and crack and bleed and develop scarring, which is why if you ever see my hands up close in some videos, it looks like I'm a field worker who's maybe 50 years old. But that's all because of my eczema skin condition. That seemed to be triggered mainly by cocoa, so chocolate, coffee, chilies, spicy peppers, and gluten. I would say out of the 3 ingredients, gluten is the least likely to make me suffer the most. However, if I work with the dough, my hands immediately flare. So the week that I was testing my sourdough bread recipe for Delish, it got really bad. Really, really, really bad. Fred is in the other room. Not to say that I don't eat chocolate, I just ate a whole bar this week. Not to say that I don't eat spicy things, because I still have to develop things, and Aaron really likes spicy things, so inevitably I'll have to try spicy things now and then. I just end up managing my expectations for feeling pain-free and, acknowledge that I will be suffering for the next few days when I do eat those things. I don't think it's life-threatening. It just makes me miserable. Some days it gets so bad that I wake up at night itching, and then I can't fall asleep, so. Contact dermatitis, yep. I also used to work in restaurants, which is when I first noticed this condition popping up, and that was when I had to wash a shit ton of dishes by hand because I worked on the pastry team, and we had our own set of tools, a lot of which couldn't just be thrown into the dish pit for the dishwashers to handle with the industrial dishwasher. So I had to hand wash a lot of things, and with that constant water contact, constantly working with my hands over high heat, making caramel on the stovetop, handling bread dough, exposed to flour every single fucking day of my life for 3-4 years, I think my body was just finally like, bitch, stop, please. And that's when I quit the restaurants. But unfortunately, this condition has followed me into my life forever and ever, it seems. I did get rid of all those CDs. They went into the trash, including John Mayer. And, wow, you just made me really sad. I threw out Dad's Enya CDs. I was just like, I really want to keep these, but I don't have a CD player, and let's face it, I'm never going to have one. Everything's digital now, so it was just like the physical memorabilia that brought up memories of a time when I was a kid, and, I was living with Mom and Dad, and I got to listen to Dad's music. Such is life. There we go. Another 10 minutes. I'm going to lower the oven temperature once more to 375. Let's see how our breads do. I think feeling sadness is a lot like allowing yourself to set the proper expectations for managing physical pain. It's basically just emotional pain. You'll just have to get used to experiencing emotional pain. It's a part of life. Aaron, your tea is hot and ready. Unfortunately, because you placed your mug on the oven, the mug is very hot now too, so I would wait to handle it. I will bring it over and set it on the desk and just don't touch it for the next 5 minutes.
Oh, you can carry it.
With a towel. Are you gonna take it? Alright. It smells very good. I opened up the oven door just a tiny bit, just a peek. The coloring looks amazing on top, and the bread smells quite good. There are moments at night when I'm trying to lull myself off to sleep that I'll suddenly just have like flashbacks to sorting through mom's house. And I'll remember that one coat that I put on the rack and somebody took away. And I'll remember that like brief 3-second period of me watching them take it away and me feeling like maybe I shouldn't have put that coat on the rack for them to take away. Maybe I should have kept that coat. And those happen probably at least a few times every day, but I don't really cling on to most of those instances. I will remember 1 or 2 times every week of like a twinge of regret of letting go of some stuff, which people have warned me before in comments of all sorts. Don't give away your mom's stuff this fast, you might want some of it later. But I think all of that is just a reaction to just the absence of mom. It's not really about the things. It's about the loss. And every time you lose something physical that reminds you of the person that you've lost, feels like you're losing them again. But you're not. It's just kind of an illusion. Illusions do feel very real, though. I would venture to say that most of our lives, especially in our current society, is lived in illusions. We're constantly thinking of things beyond us or past us. And Aaron sent me a podcast about anxiety, and in it they were talking about how most of us spend like 60 or 80% of our lives not being present. Every given thought that we have is more likely to be about something that's not happening right now. We're either thinking and worrying about something that's going to happen, that we think is going to happen, or something that has happened. And that lack of mindfulness, I guess you would call it, contributes to our existential pain. And I'm finding that very true in grief, especially. It's not something that you took, but thank you for the thought. And I'm honestly thankful for everyone who took things and are using them. I think I have these moments of like, oh man, all these people took all these things, I hope they're using them, because if they weren't using them, blah, 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 and my mind will just go off a cliff. It's not really any of my business anymore what happened to those things and where they are now and how they're being used. I would hope that they're being used and loved, but we hope for a lot of things. We hope for a lot of things. Let me try to find the podcast. I can't remember if
It was Ezra Klein's
Ezra Klein podcast anxiety. Let's see if we can pull that up. Yes. All right, y'all. Very fascinating show. And then I listened to another episode of the podcast on a completely different topic. And I think I linked that one up on my Instagram, but let me try to find it now. Ah, yes, here it is. The second episode of this podcast that I listened to was called The Case Against Loving Your Job. Looks like I can only pin one, so you'll just have to figure out how to navigate for the other episode. But I found both of those very interesting. I definitely connected a lot to the case against loving your job. It touches on several different facets of living in the society where we can no longer separate ourselves from our identity as workers, and we have all kind of, especially if you're a white collar worker, bought into this idea that your job is you, so subconsciously you're constantly thinking about success at your job as equivalent to success as a person. And even while we recognize that that might not be the healthiest belief to engender and foster in ourselves, we still have issues of really drawing that boundary and cutting ourselves off from that kind of merging of identities. And how that's really what the system intended for you to do. We always, especially I think in American culture, have encouraged children to grow up to do what you love. And I find a much stronger narrative in American culture where kids, you have career days at school, that's a very American thing. I feel like it's not a thing in China. In China, you're just you try to have the job that gives you the most money and gives you the most power and puts you in the highest position in society as possible. But in America, you have career day, job day, you have this narrative of encouraging kids to start from a very young age to think about what they want to do for a job for the rest of their lives. And it's kind of like we are brought up in this way of pairing our identities and our selfhood to what we do as a profession. And so how is it that you expect adults to no longer connect themselves with their jobs? That's what the system wanted you to do. It brought you up as a worker. Even if you end up doing something that you love for work, you are still very much a commodity. You are a cog in the machine. Welcome, cogs. All right, the bread has been baking for half an hour. Are we ready? Are we ready to say the bread? Wow. That's a big bread. I've not had such a poofy ass bread before. But it's poofs. It's a poofs. Whoops. Definitely didn't mean to do that. That's very hot and slippery. Can you hear that? That is so... I think it sounds hollow. But I don't know what hollow sounds like. I'm gonna let it cool for like 5 minutes before I try to turn it out. But I don't want it to leave, I don't want to leave it in there for too long, because then the moisture will get trapped and then the crust will get nice and soft and wet. What I usually like to do is, oh, hi, Freddie. Hi, Fred. I like to turn it out and then put it back into the oven on a sheet tray so that it can dry out the crust that wasn't exposed. I would normally butter the top, but I think I'm going to skip for now. Aaron's been eating my breads with like scrambled eggs with his Hungarian bacon. He's been enjoying it. Ooh, very crunch. I thought I had greased it pretty well, but it looks like we have some stickage, but no matter. It's gonna have to come out eventually. I tore it a little bit. Womp womp. Should have been more patient. How do you know when carrot cake is done? Just stick a toothpick in it. Shall we go see what Freddie is up to? I'll eat a little bit. I'll eat a little bit of this crust. How do you prevent fresh bread from getting stale? Moist. Nice. Slice it, freeze it. you've been waking us up at 4 a.m. every day. Hmm? Do you want some bread?
Wow, that all sounds like good things.
Is that a no for bread?
Do you have to connect, like, bring somebody or just show up and invite?
Freddie, you don't want bread. Oh, you do want bread. Oh, you don't want bread. You need a smaller piece here, hon. What do you think about the bread? Is that crust piece too hard for you? It's too hard? No want? No want. Okay. No, I would never teach Fred to communicate with buttons. I find that all kind of fascinating, but also terrifying. Like, we've crossed over a boundary of, um, I don't know, it just feels very dystopian. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but
Okay. Nice. Yeah, these communities around games definitely make it a lot more interesting. Like, it's actually very similar to the Universal Studios. It's just like
what a handsome boy. You've been waking us up at 4 a.m.? We're gonna try to switch up his feeding patterns so that he doesn't wake us up at 4 a.m. because he gets fed at 4 a.m. and then he gets very meowy and very zoomy right after he eats. So we're gonna try to push it back to like 7 or 8. We're gonna try to feed him right before we go to sleep. Ooh, I just remember I had a dream of collecting green plums outside in a churchyard. Wonder what that dream meant. They were all very good looking too, like the most perfect plums that has fallen on the ground. Some of them were ripe and smushed, and some of them were just perfectly intact. Um, do we have a dream reader in here? Yeah? What do you think, Fred? What do you think that dream meant? I'm not sure what you mean, but I think Fred is telling me that dream means nothing. I don't remember what came before me collecting plums in the churchyard. I don't remember what I was doing in the church, but I just remember that single clip of stepping out into the courtyard. It was like stone and cobble, and I just found plums. A very gentle jade-like green color. Some of them were turning a little bit golden yellow. Bye, Fred. Do you want more? Do you want more treats? I have more Stella and Chewies. You want more? Come. Can you shake? Paw? I don't remember eating any of them in the dream, no. Okay, that was good training, Freddie. You're getting fed really well for these winter months, huh? I have no more. No more. No more, Freddie. Baby boy. Oh, I gotta read some of this analysis, dream analysis time. I always feel like I'm the third person too, but sometimes I switch from third person to first person perspective in dreams. It's weird how that happens.
Has anyone done a dream analysis of the dream you had the next Yukon dive?
Oh. Who wants to do dream analysis on the dream that I had the night my mom died? I guess you said I woke up around midnight Cairo time?
I don't remember much of it anymore. I thought you wrote it down somewhere.
I didn't write it down. So,
Something to do with penguins.
yes, it was something to do with penguins.
That's all I really know. I believe we talked about it on the live while it was still fresh.
Yeah.
And it's,
Have I talked about this dream on a live before? Yes, you can still eat steel cut oats that expired in April 2021, but smell it. See if it smells a little bit rancid. If it does, I've eaten rancid oats before. They will just taste a little bit rancid. One way that you can fix that particular fragrance is toast the steel cut oats in some butter first. That kind of toasty Maillard reaction will cover over the off taste, and then proceed as usual. But anyway. So the night that my mom died, well, the last text exchange I had with her was like 9 p.m. ish Cairo time. Then I think Aaron and I kind of drifted off to sleep, maybe. I definitely fell asleep. I think sometime past midnight Cairo time, I woke up in a frenzy of sorts. And I didn't really remember this part until afterwards when Aaron was reminding me of it. But basically, I woke up and I was in a panic because I said that I had dreamed that we were in a hotel corridor, or rather, I was in a hotel corridor. I don't think Aaron was in the dream. And I think I saw two baby penguins down the hallway. So I went to go pet them because they were so cute. They were like the fuzzy wuzzy little types of penguins. And then I think as soon as I got close to them, this ginormous mother emperor penguin, and I remember being very specific. I was like, Aaron, no, you don't understand how big this penguin was. It was an emperor penguin, and it was like as big as me. Came over, and I guess she thought I was threatening her babies, but what woke me up with a jolt from this dream was the mother penguin suddenly bit down on my side, like where my kidneys are. And she wouldn't let go. And oftentimes I don't experience pain in dreams, but I felt like I actually experienced some sort of like very visceral pain. Or maybe it was just that I was in such a panic from the attack in the dream that I woke up feeling like I had experienced some sort of physical pain. So that was the extent of the dream. It was a very brief moment of the dream that I remembered. And then 3 more hours later, I woke up again and I got the news that my mom had died. So I don't know. Did she die the moment I had that dream? Because she wasn't found until later, which is when I got the news of her passing. I don't know the exact moment at which she died, so it's an interesting coinky-dink. Danny sounds like our in-house dream interpreter. Thank you so much for the insight. So that was the dream. So was my mom the emperor penguin who bit me? Was she like, yo, wake the fuck up, I'm dying? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how to interpret any of those details in particular, but ooh, a Japanese book about dream symbolisms. Angry penguins mean someone who is frustrated with people walking all over them? That would be like 10 for 10 analysis if that were true. I feel like my mom... I don't know though. I don't know if my mom... To this day, I'm still trying to figure out if my mom was someone who enjoyed letting people walk all over her. Like if it truly brought her joy to serve others. Or if she just did it out of a sense of obligation. But maybe it's kind of like that podcast about the case against loving your job. Is how do you separate these very intertwined and even merged aspects of yourself, you know? I don't know what you're asking for luck for, but good luck. I hope things go your way. But be prepared for it to not. Just so that it doesn't hurt when it doesn't. Aaron, would you like to come eat your bread?
Ready?
Yes.
So,
What kind of butter would you like?
let's do goat.
Unfortunately, I unmolded it too soon because I was impatient, so I ripped a part of it. But you can have some crusty bits there while I cut you a slice.
Okay.
Are you so excited for the Bills game?
Yeah. As long as they win. Can't lose to the Pats of all teams.
I also wish I could remember all my dreams. I once said that if there were a technology that could record all my dreams and then I could play them back like movies, I would pay a good amount of money. I think at that time I said I would pay $10,000 for it. But I feel like now, due to my dreams being as interesting as they are compared to normal life, I would pay $20,000, maybe even $25,000.
Nice.
What's nice, Aaron? Crusty bits are nice?
Crusty bits.
We're gonna use Mom's serrated knife. Oh, Aaron wants me to watch Paprika. Did you watch it already?
Yeah.
Aaron already watched it, so. Isn't that what Inception stole the entire storyline from?
I'll put this in the sink. I can't put the rest on.
Okay. Do you want an end piece?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a soft and fluffy bread.
What's different about this bread?
Different from what?
Like, tell me about the bread.
It's soft
What
and
do we have
fluffy.
going on?
It's moist. It has turmeric,
Yeah, I figured it did because the very vibrant yellow color.
and it has fenugreek seeds.
Tell me about fenugreek.
It tastes like curry.
Nice. Yes,
Has a
it's
single
very
spice.
It's a very savory bread.
Would you like to take this bite right here
Okay.
and let them hear it? Ready? How's that crust?
Amazing. This is a mega savory bread, June. Brilliant.
Yes. I put salt and pepper on top.
Wow, that's delicious.
You see the crust? Salt and pepper.
June is truly a bread auteur.
A bread auteur.
Yes.
I'm gonna let it cool off a little bit before I slice it for storage. Would you like me to cut your bacon pieces?
Sure.
Have the people seen this?
I don't think they have.
So this is, Aaron got this from Parrot. It's called
Hungarian pork fat.
Hungarian pork fat. It's covered on all sides with this red rind that
I
you
sliced
trim off.
It's a very salty rind, and it needs to be cut extremely thin because it's hard to chew, so the thinness helps.
So you cut it basically like you would cut butter.
Yeah, maybe even thinner, actually. Think of like how a deli slicer might do it.
I tried, Aaron.
It's fine. That's about how I do it too. Wow. You could. It also you can just cut like the other way too. You know, as long as it's smaller pieces.
Oh, like little strippies.
Yeah. Mhm.
Is there like connectivity tissue?
Not really. It's just like I don't know. Try a piece. You'll see. I think you did try a piece.
I have
before.
tried a piece. Wow, that bread is so soft. It's potentially the most pillowy bread I've ever made. Yes, Freddie?
It's beautiful bread, June. Take a bite. This is ultra savory bread with the pork fat and the curry.
That is so soft. My bread is so soft. That crust is amazing. That crust has such amazing flavor. Wow. Wow. I will say the bread itself, I probably should have put a little more salt into the dough, but I think the salt on top of the crust helps. I was hearing his wheezes and I
Yeah.
didn't know where he was. It's so weird. His wheezes travel so far sometimes.
Can you share a recipe for bread?
Yeah, Google rye bread delish, and you should find the recipe that I just published, but this is not the rye bread. Just use the same proportion of flour to water. I highly recommend that you use bread flour. Bread flour gives you better gluten formation, structure, fluffy pillowiness, lightness. But the general method is the same. It really doesn't matter what kinds of breads you use. You're dropping your bacony bits, man.
Sorry.
You don't gotta apologize to me. But yeah, I think it's like around 460 grams, 420 to 460 grams of flour, preferably mostly bread flour, to about 360 grams of water. You use yeast, instant yeast, you use salt, you use sugar, just to balance out the taste a little bit, and then you kind of use the stretch and fold method that you use for sourdough bread. Pillowy. So good.
It's really good.
For this batch, I also put in some barley malt syrup, which I think gives you that kind of almost like slightly alcohol-y, fermenty, kind of bready flavor that you get from bakeries. It kind of cuts out the commercial yeast flavor a little bit and gives you a little bit of a twang. Not quite a tang, because it's not a sourdough, but it gives you a twang. There's a difference between tang and twang. Twang has a little bit more cigarette smoke in it. Bye, Godzilla. Reading more of your comments. Do you use Hungarian pork fat the same as butter? How is it
Basically.
usually used? Yes, we use it like we use butter, but we don't know how it's usually used.
But the way I'm doing it the way the person at the parrot told me to do. Thinly slice it and put it on bread.
Would that turmeric bread go well with peanut butter? Yes. It doesn't taste extremely turmeric-y. It just gives you a nice golden yellow hue. But I wouldn't say you're tasting the flavors too much here. It's mostly just for aesthetics. And I think it will go well with condensed milk too, toasted. Can you save that carton for me?
What are you going to use a milk carton for?
I'm gonna open the milk carton. I'm gonna wait for 4 minutes, and then I'm gonna get a single more sip from the very edge of it.
Okay.
What is pequi? I don't know what pequi is. Sorry. I can't say yeast properly, guys. I tried yeast. Yeast? Is that it?
Yeast.
I have to try really hard to say it. I can't hear the difference in my ears. Hi, Brittany. Board games. That's fun. Ooh.
Do people have any recommendations on board games that can be played with very old people?
Grandma's birthday was this week. She's 94 now. I also ordered some spices from Burlap and Barrel for the next spice show, but I ordered some fun goodies like balsam fir salt, so I'm very excited to try that. This has crystal salt and hand-picked balsam fir tips, so it's gonna taste like pine needles.
You're not taking another slice.
Good. Do you want me to slice or you got
I
it?
got it.
Okay, he's got it. Whoa, be gentle on the bread, my dude.
I'm trying.
We also opened this black lime and chili salt. It is basically like elevated tahini. How would you describe?
That's how I described yesterday.
Okay. Do you want some on top?
You took the words. No, I'm doing goat butter.
Goat butter and this.
No. This bread has so much flavor already.
Game for old people, reverse seat. It's similar to Go. The problem with Grandma is she really doesn't want to do anything. Sometimes
So it
we
needs
have
to be extremely simple.
It needs to be extremely simple, and I also have to threaten her that I'm going to leave if she doesn't play. Otherwise, she doesn't engage at all. It's very frustrating. The nurses have time getting her out of her bed so that they can clean the bed. She likes to crowd her bed with a lot of different shit because that's the way that she lived when she was living at Mom's house, which also aggravated Mom because Grandma was also just always messy. Again, Grandma has lived through several wars, and I think it just comforts her to have all the random shit in her bed surrounding her. But it is a mess. It is a visual mess, and it is just intense. But it's gonna be very hard to play games with her now too, because I'm pretty sure there's still active cases in her facility.
Yeah,
so
I'm thinking after.
Yeah, I haven't been staying for longer than 5 to 10 minutes every time I visit. I still try to visit every day. There was one day this week when I was so busy with work that I sent Aaron just to drop off some kanji. And for some reason, Grandma assumed that because Aaron was there and I wasn't, it meant that I was sick. And so an hour later, I didn't pick up my phone, and suddenly I looked at my phone and there were 3 voicemails, and one of them was 90 seconds of her just crying. So I was like, well, I don't know what's wrong with Grandma. Better go take a look. So I went, and as soon as I stepped into her room, she was like, oh, you're here. And I was like, yes, what's wrong? I heard you crying. And she was like, oh, the phone call went through. And I was like, yes. And she was like, go to the closet. There's medicine in there. Which, by the way, the closet holds 10-year expired Chinese medication that she refused to let me throw out. And I was like, why would I need medication? And she was like, aren't you sick? They told me you were sick. And
Try some with goat butter.
Who told you I was sick? How did you cut this bread, Aaron?
Poorly.
But, I mean, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Look at that.
I couldn't cleanly slice the top crust.
Mmm. Pepper.
Freddie feels left out of the bread fun.
I gave him a bite.
Nice. Did he eat it?
Yes. He did. I just took a little nibble where I saw a fenugreek seed. You don't really taste it, but it tastes delicious with goat butter. Come eat your bread before I eat it all, please.
How's it with the goat butter?
It's fucking delicious with the goat butter. Oh my god. It's so good.
Thank you very much, June.
Yes.
Another big winner.
This is what happens when you let Aaron slice warm bread. But at least we got a really good looking piece out of it. Look at that bubble structure in there. Look at that. Wow.
Are you assessing my damage?
I'm appreciating your damage, okay?
Yeah, it revealed this beautiful.
But also you just squidged.
I squidged.
You squid.
You gotta have some different densities of the bread to enjoy it the most.
Warm bread is delicious, especially if you like it real moist and slightly tacky. But you do suffer the consequences of not having beauteous slices, especially if yeah, well, you know. So what I do with a loaf bread like this is I wait for it to cool, and then I slice it, and then I freeze it, and then it keeps forever. You just defrost each slice as you need. So. Wow, I'm very, very happy with this. So that's it for the food content and random dream content. I'll probably go on with the rest of my day now, doing relaxing stuff because it's the weekend. Shall we say bye to Fred? You hiding, Freddy? Come out, Fred. I don't know what he's doing. Okay, bye.